Dave, there are really two big themes here. One is being a people pleaser, and one is being a workaholic. Do you have any trouble with that? I know you might know some other people who do too, but what about Pastor Dave of Creative Arts?
I know a lot of people, that have that. I have both of those. I have both of those things going on. Yeah, I'm a driven person, not only in ministry but in life, and it's a lifelong, it's a lifelong pursuit of the Lord, and letting Him direct me instead of me directing me all the time.
So being driven can be a beautiful thing. I'm that way too. I'm cranking out all kinds of stuff, and I'm willing to put in lots of hours for it, but we have to have these margins in. So we're not telling people, hey, don't be driven, be laid back, kick back and stay there, No, we're not talking about that.
No, we're not. But being driven in excess can be awarded, and it can be respected, and you can get accolades for it, and you can be doing everything that appears to be God's will, and all along it's not. And there's a difference there, and being driven in the direction that the Lord wants you to be driven in, and doing His will, opposed to just doing good things that are no sin involved, as we can't call sin, but still things that are not the direction He would be having us driven.
And what about pleasing people? Is this related to working way too many hours or in the wrong direction?
I think it can, and that's probably something that Doug struggled with. For me, it's not so much pleasing people, but it's knowing that my name is on something, and I want it to be, excellent all the time, great all the time.
We have a theme here with a lot of little themes that capture our history. One of them is excellence without extravagance has been sort of a value, and yet, when is enough? There's not a book. I can't call and say, hey, Google, is this enough? I can't get on the phone and say, hey, Jesus, is this enough? I mean, it's a learned wisdom to know when to say when. And I didn't know how to say when.
Absolutely.
When wasn't in my vocabulary before my heart attack.
That's well said. And that's why I look forward to, like I said, the actual documentation, if you will, through this book, and the insight that it's going to have of not just somebody that sat around and thought about it, but somebody that has lived it, thought about it, and now telling that story. I look forward to that story from my own life.
And explain about your name being on something. Was that a negative or a positive?
If it was good, it was a positive. If that thing was bad, it was a negative. And I would, and I still struggle with that. To work too long, not close the computer at the end of the day, not turn off my phone, take it all right home with me, wake up in the morning checking email immediately. Yeah.
In other words, you're saying Dave-centered, Pastor Dave-centered.
Very, very much. Very much. But all along it can be respected because it was done well, it was done within the church, it was done for the Lord.
Which helps keep the problem going. Is this what you're saying?
Sure. Listen, if this is a big issue about transformative cultures, which I'm committed to helping build here. I helped create a bad culture. Been here 23 years, so if there's bad stuff here, I kind of have to say, I'm guilty, and now I'm trying to do the other thing. And I have to be concerned about when does he say enough. And I need, as a colleague, to know when to say, Dave, that is outstanding. We are blessed. You can kick back. That's enough. Because when he hears it from a colleague that he values and trusts, that can be like thunder, like, whew, okay. And when he says it to me, I can go, okay, that's enough. Because there's an excellence driven in a lot of driven people and capable people, and in a church that's got a big image out there. You think you have to protect it, and yet, sometimes we just lose sight in the particulars of what's the main thing. The main thing is the main thing. We're trying to help people far from God find Jesus and help transform the triangle in the world. That means transform. We better be transformed. And part of that transformation is knowing when's enough. Business people struggle with that. Principals, mechanics, everybody struggles with, I can't turn down one more job. I probably need that $300. I mean, I can't take a vacation week, I got to be here. I mean, we all struggle with the same thing. If we don't live it as pastors in a true sense that people can sniff the air and go, wow, those guys really are transformative, and we create a culture for our volunteers. We have people who workaholic as volunteers. It's just as bad as us doing it.
Wow.
So we're talking about a lifestyle of being transformed believers, trying to create a transformative culture, and then now we're trying to export that culture as best we can to others, other people and other cultures.
Exactly, and that we grew up in that culture. We're both very blessed, though, because we have a senior pastor that does not promote this culture, and he's on our case all the time, even before your heart attack. Go home, Doug. How many hours are you working, Doug? And me too. And he's a tremendous example of how to do it. But you can still
Who is?
Chuck Million, our senior pastor, Chuck Million, tremendous mentor and example of.
He practices good boundaries himself, and he let us live over the wall because he's not trying to control us, but he saw it coming, and when we were willing to check ourselves in, as I did, to get healthy, he was incredibly supportive with finances and help and counseling, and let the body know, okay, Doug's had a blowout, and it's mostly his fault, but we're going to let him fix that. And so he didn't try to hide the darkness from the church. He just let me grow and develop and get healthier, because he said, hey, if you can do that, that's bound to be good for our church and staff.
Is there anything else that you would like to know what Dave's thinking?
I may have had enough for one day. I love him as a brother. It's been fun to be with someone this long, because we can't fake each other out for 2 or 3 years and then move on. We've raised families together. We like I say, we can both raise our hand when someone says, boy, your church is really out of line, and we go, guilty. And we're aware of it, and we're working on it. You know, we help shape this church, and it's shaping people. And we've discovered how hard it is if we maybe shaped it wrong, undoing it, which is making us more sensitive. Boy, let's be careful how we shape it going forward, because it's hard to undo stuff that we might do with good intentions in the flesh that should have been a little healthier, a little more biblical. We're both committed to that now.
Yeah, that's right. And the blessing to this is that I guess the Lord shook us hard enough. You through your heart attack, and me in some ways, but He shook us hard enough that we're at least seeing it. We haven't arrived, but we've got the next generation coming. And it's great for me to be able to stand up in front of my 23, 27, 20, 32-year-old staff members and say, you know what? We don't worship this equipment in here. We don't worship these hallways and this decor and this ministry. We worship Jesus Christ.
Smashing idols.
We don't worship that stuff. If it works and we've done well, we'll plan, we'll work hard, but we're not going to bow down and worship it. And on Sunday morning, if it comes off great, praise God. If it doesn't, praise God.